So, Nancy, I will gladly make you co-host and invite you to gather up questions in the chat. I'll make that real clear to everyone at the beginning. And I'll introduce you to learners. That's great.
Okay, you're good to go, Russ. You're live.
Thanks, Harry. I appreciate that.
Thank
You guys
you.
are always a
Bye-bye.
great team, and what you do is very much appreciated.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye, you two. Have a good evening. And hello, Nancy. I'm going to make you co-host.
Hello, Russ. How are you?
Very good. Where are you calling from tonight, Nancy?
India.
India. Okay. So let's see. It's pretty actually, it must be early morning there?
Yeah, it's 4:30. No, 5 a.m.
5. Sun come up yet?
Not yet.
I hope you're a morning person.
No, I'm not.
So this is the end of a long night, maybe. Okay. I better stop while I'm ahead. I'm a morning person, so I would only be up at that time if I'd slept already.
Okay.
We are on live streaming. We're getting ready to do Rick Steves' Festivals of Europe, Festivals Tuesday. And we're going to start in about 1 minute. Good evening, Carol.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm fine.
You were here last night.
I don't know. Was I?
I've seen you in another class. I thought it was last night's
Yeah.
class.
No, I had my second shot, so I'm just kind of yucky today.
Well, sorry to hear that, but I hear it gets better.
Oh no, I'm sure it will. Thank you.
I'm one of those fortunate people that had no symptoms after my second shot. So
I don't have anything, but I'm just sleeping a lot. That's all. No other symptoms.
Well, we're glad to have you here tonight with Vivian and Wanda and someone named, Nadine. Thanks for renaming yourself, Nadine. I almost called you iPad. We get a lot of the people with that name in our classes. Diane and Gloria. Gloria was just in a class with me a little while ago. Laverne. Hi, Laverne. And Muriel. Let's see. Susan, you were on a class with, and Brigitte, you were in the last class. Wonderful.
Yeah, the last class. Yeah.
You are really just wanting to travel as I am. And Sharon, you were in the class last night, I believe.
I have a daughter and 2 new twin grandchildren in Vienna, Austria, and I haven't been able to visit them this year. Well, I was there in March when this madness started, but now I'm cut off from seeing them.
Just getting everybody in here tonight. We do have Nancy, who is our TA support. So she will pick up any questions that you all put in the chat. And also we have Sebastian, who's here to help with any technical issues. So if anybody's having a problem, you can chat with Sebastian or just ask the question of Sebastian. Hi, Cindy. You were in the last class with me a little while ago, I believe. And we should have a pretty full class tonight. Quite a few of you were with me last night when we looked at island hopping with Rick Steves. We are, of course, gearing up to have Rick Steves with us a week from today, 8 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time next Tuesday. He'll be live on Get Set Up. And you can sign up for a chance to be one of the lucky people that gets in on that Zoom call with Rick. He can answer all your travel questions as he is able, I'm sure. Alan, welcome from Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. People are putting in the chat where they're from, so you're welcome to put in the chat this evening where you're from. Then we can all see where everyone's from tonight. Hi, Alan. I see you waving. And Muriel's in Brooklyn. Muriel, my daughter, lives in Brooklyn.
Where in Brooklyn?
Flatbush.
I'm in Canarsie, not too far.
Okay. She's about 3 or 4 blocks from the park.
Okay.
The big park.
Prospect Park.
Prospect Park.
There you go. I'm on the other side of Brooklyn, but
Okay. Paula from Kansas City, Gloria from Seal Beach, Susan from Houston. We have Cindy from Tucson, Diane from New Jersey, Meg's from Detroit. Great to see everybody here tonight. Nadine is also from Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. Eileen's from North Carolina. Teresa's from Orange Park, Florida. Fabulous. And a lot of you are familiar faces. I think you were in the class with me last night. There were a few that were in my class about an hour ago where I talked about a pilgrimage in Italy that I walked. We'll be seeing a little bit more of Italy tonight. In fact, we'll be seeing quite a bit of Italy tonight because 2 of the festivals that we will be checking out tonight are in Italy. And we'll give it about 1 more minute, see if anyone else joins us before I start. I'm sure people will join after that. We always have lots of folks come in a couple minutes after we start officially. Oh, we've got Shirley from Calgary, Alberta. Fabulous, Shirley. I've had other people from Calgary, and I'm wondering if you're the one that I've had from Calgary. Haven't been to Calgary, but I've been to Saskatchewan.
I've been in a few of your classes, yes.
Okay, I thought it was you. We've had this conversation before. Oh, and Eileen is saying that she has a son who's worked in London for the last 10 years, and he is proud of you. Yeah, great. He's a Rick Steves fan. Who isn't a Rick Steves fan? I mean, how can you not be a fan of Rick Steves? So that's the way I feel about it anyway. I'm a big Rick Steves fan. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all and share some sound and optimize for a video clip while I do that. And I'll first just give a little introduction here. What we're going to do tonight is we are going to look at some Rick Steves videos of European festivals. And if I could get all the way back to the beginning, there we are, Festivals Tuesday. This is, or Festival Tuesdays. This is part of our lead up to Rick Steves being with us next week. And we're really looking forward to having him. And there is a sign up, which I will show you right in a couple minutes, where you can sign up for a chance to be one of the people who gets in the Zoom call with Rick Steves. I'm Russ Eanes, your guide. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I'm a writer, a walker, and a cyclist. And I formerly was a book publisher, and I love to help authors shape their ideas into a book. And I love the energy and the wisdom I get from working with all of you. As you all know, Get Set Up helps you learn useful things from people like you so you can do wonderful things. We learn from each other. Ideally, we can see you and your cameras are on. You can request a recording after class by emailing help@getsetup.io. If anyone's joining by live stream, the best way to participate is to join us and register for a class. and Get Set not paid to promote any specific products. So though we are kind of promoting Rick Steves tonight, but he's not paying us for anything for that. Is everybody able to see what I've got on the screen here? I'm not able to see you because I'm doing a share screen. So I just need a quick shout out. Yeah, we see this, Rob.
Yeah, we see it. I see it.
Yep.
I can see it. Yes.
Okay. And you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Yes.
Rick Steves is coming to Get Set Up in April 13th, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This is the sign up if you want to get a chance to participate in the Zoom call. It will also be streaming on Get Set Up TV. And if you want to know where Get Set Up TV is, you can find it in a couple places. If you go to our website, and the left side of the home page, there's several icons and one of them says TV. Just click on that and you can see whatever happens to be streaming live at that moment. And we stream live stuff nearly around the clock because we're around the globe. You can also see anything that we are streaming live on Facebook. So we have a Facebook page. The nice thing about that Facebook page is if you happen to miss it, you can go there and you can see a video that has already been done in the past.
Can I ask you a quick question? If it's 8 o'clock, I live in Kansas, which is Central Time. What do you know what time is going to be in my city?
7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time next Tuesday.
Okay, next Tuesday, 7 o'clock.
Yep,
me.
7 o'clock Central Time. That's right. If you're in Chicago or anywhere in the Central Time Zone, that's right.
Yeah, I apologize to interrupt you, but thank you very much.
You're welcome. Here's a little quote I got from Rick Steves from an interview he did recently in a paper, and I really like this. He said, our mission is to, this is his company, our mission is to inspire Americans to venture beyond Orlando. We owe it to our mission to still be around after this is done so America can be less fearful and open to the world with a mindset of building bridges instead of building walls. Rick Steves kept all his people on last year in spite of the fact that his tours all had to be canceled and his book sales dropped about 90%. So that's why he's saying we owe it to our mission to still be around. I really got to hand it to Rick Steves for being around when the pandemic is over for all of us that still would like to travel. And at the end, I'll talk to you a little bit about our upcoming travel series. But for now, I'm going to stop this and I'm going to go right to a video about festivals in Europe. And we're going to start with Pamplona's Running of the Bulls. When it's all done,
each country has its iconic celebration. In France, it's fireworks over the Eiffel Tower. In Italy, it's a crazy horse race. And in Spain, it's bullfighting. Next on our party tour, the biggest bull festival of all, Pamplona's Running of the Bulls.
Officially known as the Festival of San Fermin, the Running of the Bulls is perhaps Europe's greatest adrenaline festival. For 9 days each July, throngs of visitors, most dressed in the traditional white with red sashes and kerchiefs, come to run with the bulls and a whole lot more.
The festival, which packs this city, has deep roots. For centuries, the people of this region have honored Saint Fermin, their patron saint, with processions and parties. He was decapitated in the 2nd century for his faith, and the red bandanas you see everywhere are a distant reminder of his martyrdom. And you know, I don't think anybody on this square knows or even cares.
But at the Church of San Fermin, it's a capacity crowd, and there's no question what to wear for this Mass. To this day, locals look to Fermin, their hometown saint, for protection. Back out on the streets, it's a party for young and old. There's plenty of fun for kids, and towering giants add a playful mystique to the festivities. The literary giant Ernest Hemingway is celebrated by Pamplona as if he were a native son.
Hemingway first came here for the 1923 Running of the Bulls. Inspired by the spectacle, he later wrote his bullfighting classic, The Sun Also Rises. He said he enjoyed seeing two wild animals running together, one on two legs and the other on four.
Hemingway put Pamplona on the world map. When he first visited, it was a dusty town of 30,000 with an obscure bullfighting festival. Now, 1 million people a year come here for one of the world's great parties. After dark, the town erupts into a rollicking party scene. While the craziness rages day and night, the city's well organized, and even with all the alcohol, it feels in control and things go smoothly. Amazingly, in just a few hours, this same street will host a very different spectacle. The running of the bulls takes place early each morning. Spectators claim a vantage point at the crack of dawn. Early in the morning? Nope. For many of these revelers, it's the end of a long night. The anticipation itself is thrilling. Security crews sweep those not running out of the way. Shop windows and doors are boarded up. Fencing is set up to keep the bulls on course and protect the crowd. The runners are called mozos. While many are just finishing up a night of drinking, others train for the event. They take the ritual seriously and run every year. At 8 o'clock, a rocket is fired and the mozos take off. Moments later, a second rocket means the bulls have been released. They stampede half a mile through the town from their pens to the bullfighting arena. At full gallop, it goes by fast. Bulls thunder through the entire route in just 2.5 minutes. The mozos try to run in front of the bulls for as long as possible, usually just a few seconds before diving out of the way. They say on a good run, you feel the breath of the bull on the back of your legs. Cruel as this all seems for the bulls who scramble for footing on the cobblestones as they rush toward their doom in the bull ring, the human participants don't come out unscathed. Each year, dozens of people are gored or trampled. Over the last century, 15 mozos have been killed at the event. After it's done, people gather for breakfast and review the highlights on TV. All day long, local channels replay that morning's spectacle. The festival's energy courses through the city. Overlooking the main square, the venerable Cafe Iruña pulses with music and dance. While the masses fill the streets, VIPs fill the city's ballrooms. It seems everyone is caught up in this festival of San Fermin.
While Christians have celebrated Easter since ancient times, the festival itself actually has pre-Christian roots. And it's no coincidence that it happens at the start of spring. Like Christmas replaced the pagan festival of Saturn in the dead of winter, Easter likely replaced the celebration of Ostra, a pagan goddess of spring. It was a time of renewal, birth, and fertility.
Imagine the bleakness of winter in ancient and medieval times. The despair, the short days and long nights, barren fields, the hunger, and the cold. Imagine the need for a promise that summer will return, and the joy when finally the fields spring to life and once again bear fruit. Imagine also the comfort in knowing that God or the gods had not abandoned you and your family. Rituals, whether Christian or pagan, gave people hope, reminding them that the darkness of winter is always followed by life-giving spring.
The church wisely adapted the pagan seasonal calendar to fit the story it wanted to tell. It rebranded this winter season of scarcity as a time of purification for Christians and called it Lent. But before the deprivation of Lent, there was a rowdy period of anything goes. And this hedonistic fling is Carnival.
Perhaps the most famous European carnival festivals are in Venice. Venice, in the quiet of winter, lives up to its early name, La Serenissima, the Serene Republic. Visitors at this time of year bundle up and enjoy the city's chilly embrace. And each winter, Carnival casts a spell on Venetians and visitors alike. Following a tradition that originated in the 13th century, the city slips behind a mask of anonymity as Venetians promenade, pose, and pretend they're someone they're not. Authority is challenged, rules are broken. The goal? To indulge in everything that'll be forbidden in Lent. An elegant disguise is both transformative and liberating. But it's the mask, so symbolic of this enigmatic city, which feels like a cloak of invisibility. While the original 13th century masks had symbolic functions, today's costumes are more fanciful. While they all give a nod to tradition, many are more contemporary and colorful. Though the masks may have changed, the pleasurable appeal of anonymity has not. As dusk falls, the back streets come alive with strangers. Now, as then, decadence rules the night. Like going anywhere else in Venice, getting to a carnival party often involves a vaporetto ride. Walking through narrow streets and crossing over canals on bridges. These Venetians have been gathering together to enjoy Carnival for 25 years. And just as generations of Venetians have for hundreds of years, they enjoy the privacy and comfort of an elegant palazzo. It's a time when friends take a break from the stresses of their composed, controlled lives to let a little fun and fantasy take over. In another palazzo off the Grand Canal, guests enter into a surreal world that could have been lifted right out of the 16th century.
Welcome, dear guests. Welcome, all my friends.
Behind their masks, people from bankers to bakers are equal. Tonight, no one knows who's who, and reality seems a distant dream. As it was centuries ago, what happens in Venice stays in Venice.
Across Europe, festival traditions go back centuries and are filled with time-honored pageantry and ritual. Entire communities hurl themselves with abandon into the craziness. There's no better example than here in Italy, Siena's Palio.
In this gorgeously preserved Tuscan hill town, the Middle Ages seem to survive in the architecture. Its towering City Hall tower fronts an elegant, shell-shaped main square, Il Campo. While its streets are peaceful, they contain a lively legacy of civic pride and independence. And twice a year, that spirit shows itself in a crazy horse race, as it has for 5 centuries. The city is divided into 17 neighborhoods, or contrada. These are autonomous, competitive, and filled with rivalries. In this densely populated city, most of the year the contrada are almost indistinguishable. One small piazza or street looks much like the next, but as the Palio approaches, the battle lines are drawn. The distinctive flags and colors of each contrada line the neighborhood, showing their namesake mascot, like turtle, eagle, dragon, and a fierce-looking dolphin. All year long, citizens prepare. Women lovingly stitch vests and banners. Neighborhood fathers coach kids in drumming and flag throwing. Any time of year, if you hear drumming, check it out for a taste of the Palio to come. And twice a year, each July and August, the entire city readies itself as 10 of the 17 neighborhoods, chosen by lottery, prepare for the big race. Its central square, Il Campo, is transformed into a medieval racetrack. Tons of clay are packed atop the cobbles. Padding is added to the treacherous corners, and bleachers and railings are set up in anticipation of the big day. While the horse race lasts only a couple of minutes, for the Sienese, the Palio is a way of life. For many, it's a philosophy. Locals joke that in Siena, you're born, there's the Palio, and then you die. While the jockeys, usually from out of town, are hired hands, the horses are the stars. Each neighborhood gets its horse through a lottery. They're then adopted and showered with love, respected as if special neighborhood citizens. They're groomed and washed and housed in stables right in the city center. In the days leading up to the race, they're frequently paraded through the streets for their admiring fans. As race day approaches, processions break out across the city. Locals belt out passionate good luck choruses. With the waving flags and pounding drums, it all harkens back to the Middle Ages when rituals like these boosted morale before battle. Each contrada marches into Siena's ornate cathedral. The centerpiece of the parade is the actual Palio. That's the famed and treasured banner, lovingly painted and featuring the Virgin Mary to whom the race is dedicated. The church is thronged as all the neighborhoods wave their stirring flags in unison to honor the Palio's procession to the altar. Here it's blessed as the crowd looks upon it reverently. Soon, it'll be awarded to the victorious contrada. With the horses and jockeys chosen and the Palio blessed and waiting for the winner, competing neighborhoods gather for big community dinners that last well into the night. Each banquet is beautifully situated in the heart of the district. It's a multi-generational affair with old-timers, the young, and the very young. There are rousing choruses all cheering their contradas. And little ones soaking up the centuries-old traditions. Even if I don't fully understand what's happening, the excitement is contagious and the wine is delightful. I feel privileged to participate in a scene that's changed little over the centuries. On the day of the race, those honored to represent their contrada put on elaborate medieval costumes and armor. This requires many assistants who not only help fit the clothing, but make sure it looks just as it did centuries ago. In full regalia, the contrada then process to the neighborhood church, where there's a colorful flag ceremony. Followed by a full-throated singing of the contrada's hymn. And finally, the traditional blessing of the horse by the priest. Go and return victorious, says the priest. Then, you guessed it, there's another procession, with more drums and flags as each contrada marches through Siena, eventually flowing together at the cathedral, where, before the bishop, they showcase their passion and talents. After all have gathered at the cathedral, there's one last grand parade through the canyon-like streets. With drums thundering, the people crush to join the scene. The town converges on its main square. And then, with what seems like all of Siena packed into the Campo, it's time for the race. Bleacher and balcony seats are expensive, but standing room with the masses in the square is free. A cart pulled by oxen carrying the coveted Palio banner enters. This only increases the crowd's anticipation. Then 10 snorting horses and their nervous riders line up to await the start. The jockeying includes a little last-minute negotiating. It's complicated. Then silence takes over. Once the rope drops, there's one basic rule. there are no rules. They race bareback like crazy while spectators go wild. With non-stop spills and thrills, life in Siena stops for these frantic 3 laps, just about 90 seconds. And Lupa, the She-Wolf district wins. When the winner crosses the line, 1/17 of Siena, the prevailing She-Wolf neighborhood, goes berserk. Tears of joy flow. People embrace. The jubilation is over the top for both the winners and for the many neighborhoods joyously celebrating their rival Contrada's defeat. The happy horde thunders through the streets and up to the cathedral. Once there, they pack the church, and the winning Contrada receives the coveted palio. Champions until the next race.
Of Europe's many great festivals, one of the wildest is Oktoberfest here in Munich. Germany's favorite annual beer bash originated about 200 years ago with the wedding reception of King Ludwig I. Ludwig's party was such a hit, they've been celebrating every year since.
Oktoberfest lasts for 2 weeks from late September into October. Filling a huge fairground under a dramatic statue representing Bavaria, locals set up about 16 huge tents that can each seat several thousand beer drinkers. The festivities kick off with grand parades through Munich heading toward the fairgrounds. The queen of the parade is the Münchner Kindl, a young woman wearing a monk's robe, riding the lead horse with her beer stein raised. With thousands of participants, the parade seems endless. You'll see traditional costumes from every corner of Bavarian society. Elaborately decorated horses and wagons, along with keg-filled floats from each of the city's main breweries, entertain the crowds while making their way to the festival grounds. Revelers fill massive tents awaiting the grand opening. After trotting through much of Munich, the parade finally enters the fairgrounds. Dignitaries are formally greeted, and another Oktoberfest begins. From now on, for the next 2 weeks, it's a beer-fueled frenzy of dancing, music, food, and amusements. There's no better place to see Germans at play. The tents are surrounded by a fun forest of amusements. There's a huge Ferris wheel. The Five Loops roller coaster must be the wildest around. For locals and tourists alike, the rides are unforgettable, and probably best done before you start drinking your beer. Inside the tent, the party rages day and night. Bavarian culture is strong here. Each of the tents has a personality. Some are youthful, some are more traditional. It's a festival of German culture. While there are plenty of tourists, it's really dominated by locals who look forward to this annual chance to celebrate Bavaria and its beer. Fast-moving waitresses hoist armloads of massive glasses. The beers are served in cherished glass mugs, each holding a liter of their favorite local brew. The people watching, Germans letting their hair down, is itself entertaining. It's a slap-happy world of lederhosen, dirndls, fancy hats, and maidens with flowers in their hair. It's a multi-generational blowout, complete with schmaltzy music and lots of new friendships. Rivers of beer are drunk and tons of food are eaten. Radishes, pretzels, lots of sausage, all served by saucy maids. While I was too tipsy to count, locals claim there are 6 million visitors, 7 million liters of beer drunk, 500,000 chicken cooked, and 100 oxen eaten. That's one truly memorable festival.
Well, I am really curious which festival people liked the best or the least.
The running of the bulls.
Was your favorite? Okay. Glory, what were you going to say?
I was going to say I like Munich because I've been there to Oktoberfest. And just
Okay.
because I have been there, I think I like that.
I've been to Pamplona and Munich. I've been to Munich right after Oktoberfest, and I've been to Pamplona before the running of the bulls. It's a beautiful city. I actually like that festival the least. I'm not sure I liked all the bulls running through there, goring people and folks falling down, the bulls getting hurt. But and here's a little interesting fact about the Oktoberfest is that it is such a big deal, not because it's a big deal to the Germans necessarily, but because after the Second World War, the Americans occupied Munich, and they indicated that it would be a lot of fun to make a big deal out of the Oktoberfest. So the Germans did it on the Americans' part, and then the rest is history. Arnita, what were you going to say?
It's Arnita. I
Arnita.
like the one where they wore the costumes and the masks.
Carnival.
Carnival.
I'm a clothes person, so I love that.
Now, has anyone been to any of those festivals? Gloria said she'd been to Oktoberfest, and I've been there right after Oktoberfest. We had a full report from the tour guide who led us around Munich about it. Anybody experienced any of those?
Russ,
Yes.
let me just add to the one event that happened to us in Munich. We went to the opening day parade, and then we had all of our luggage stolen out of our rental.
Sorry to hear about that.
But it was fine. Our passports were with us. Everything important was inside the car. They broke into the trunk, and we just went on. We just continued to tour Europe for 2 weeks. Just bought a few clothes, wore the same thing over and over.
Munich's a lovely city. Pat.
Hi. No, I'm sorry I was late joining you. I have been to Oktoberfest and enjoyed it very much. We did miss the parade, so I'm sorry that I did miss that. I would have liked that. I think that you get a lot of the tradition but I did enjoy seeing the people all throughout that time. They wear traditional clothing around the city a lot. So you see a lot of that. And I like German food. So I especially like the Schweinehaxen and so forth. I did see, which I found amusing, young men from America in shirts and flip-flops. And for a minute, I thought I was in Florida, not Munich. But of course, that does happen, and they were having fun. Lots of Americans there. I would imagine, I'd forgotten, it's been so long now, which tent we were in for most of the day. There were 5, I believe, very large tents, but I enjoyed it very much. And then we, of course, toured, went and traveled. So I'm sorry I missed the beginning conversations, but probably I've always wanted to go to Venice for their festival. But did anybody go? Did anybody say they had been?
I don't think anyone did.
Mm-hmm. No, I've been to Venice a number of times, but I've never been there during Carnival.
Carnival, yes. No, I've never. Okay.
Elaine, did you want to say something?
Yeah, we went to the Palio. I actually snapped a picture. This was back in the day when Oleg Cassini rode his horse past me. I was right at the front of the crowd.
Wow. That was a festival I was unaware of. I knew the others, but I didn't know about the Palio. Any more, anybody want to say about any of those festivals, your impressions of them, or anyone that's been to any of them? So I said, I've been to both Pamplona and Munich, both lovely places. Pamplona is the third day when you walk the Camino de Santiago. So I walked in the night before Easter. Very lovely city. Recognized all those places as I walked around the city, and saw where the bulls run. I mean, the bull ring is where they have the bullfights. And it was also in Pamplona that I discovered the Spanish tradition of tapas, which are these little dishes that they serve out with wine or beer. And if you are in Spain, that's what you need to do that at least once. So we did that for an evening in Pamplona. Very lovely city. Really enjoyed it. It's in the Basque Country, which is a unique region of Spain, because the Basques are a people who have a language that is not related to any other language in Europe.
I was in Berlin during an Oktoberfest. It was like in early 70s, maybe even 1970. I can't really remember. But I do remember I was unfortunately with American servicemen. And at that point, the Berliners were a little tired of the American servicemen because they didn't behave very well. And I mean, it wasn't, all I remember is that the German men, it was considered okay if you were with another man and they wanted to dance with you, it was okay for them just to come up and ask you. It wasn't like in the States where, well, if you're with this guy, you leave that person alone. So I thought that was very odd. And I remember how delicious the bratwurst was. And that's about it. But there were like games and dancing and everything in the street. And I think it wasn't for a week, it was like a day or something.
I have quite a few German friends and have spent a lot of time in Germany. And one of my good friends, Eckhart, who lives in near Cologne, says that actually Munich is his favorite city. If he could live anywhere else than where he is, he would live in Munich or München. And so that's why we spent a couple days there and we really loved it. They do speak a slightly different dialect of German, or it sounds different. So if you know a bit of German, you might find yourself at a bit of a loss at points in Munich trying to communicate. But it's a very lovely city, fabulous beer tradition. We did take a city tour, which was really worth it. And some evening, perhaps I'll do a presentation on Munich, some of the things we learned about the city. One of which is that the Nazis anticipated that Munich would be flattened by bombing. And so before the war started, they had the entire city photographed, and architects note the details and draw all the buildings exactly as they were. And after the war, when indeed Munich was largely flattened, they were able to reconstruct the city as it had looked before the Second World War, because they had all the photographs and the plans of the building. So that's a little detail I learned as I went through there. Also, there are lots of beer halls in Germany for each of the major breweries. And one of them, Augustiner, is actually a kind of a nonprofit brewery, and they donate all of their profits to charity. So we thought that was kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I was in München, I was young because it was when the Olympics was happening at the time. And people would come up to my parents because we had a jacket that had an American flag on it and stuff. And we were asking for signatures, even though they didn't know who they were. And that was also the year that they had the hostage taking and stuff. And so I got very tense in the city that year.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, we actually lived 8 years in West Berlin. My husband was stationed there. And so my oldest one was born in West Berlin in the American hospital. And my younger one was born in Fulda, West Germany. So we were there from 77 on up. And so we did a lot of traveling because my husband spoke German. So we traveled a lot all over, not only Germany, but Austria and different places. So we So my kids are international citizens with birth certificates from Germany, which is an
And-
interesting. We've been to a lot of Chris Kindle Marts, the Christmas market. We went to one of the main ones in Nuremberg, where we stayed in a hotel right above the square. So in Berlin, which was also flattened or 95% destroyed, on the main drag, the Kudamm, they have a church which is half modern and half destroyed, so that people realize what happened during the war. It's kept destroyed, and then you have the
Yeah.
modern part. In the
That
Kudamm.
reminds me, at the time when we were in Berlin, we went to East Berlin.
Yeah.
And it was, they had, they only had the front of the buildings.
Right.
And they were being held up by these things, and they
There's,
wouldn't let you just,
there's
you
more-
could get arrested for taking
Yeah,
pictures.
there's a you can drive through Berlin. There's a street with only the front of houses.
Yeah.
The back right is only right. And you could also go from West Berlin to East Germany, but you'd have to go on the Autobahn. You'd have to go to the checkpoints.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
could
I
only
got
stay, and
arrested.
They took your odometer reading at the beginning.
Yeah,
Couldn't
I
go
was
walk
detained.
because you weren't allowed.
Yeah.
Go. So there's like when my husband was in the military, you could go to East Berlin and translate the marks. You had very good shopping. You had all these American shoppers, and there's a place called, it's a radio tower. It's called the Pope's Revenge. If you look at it, it's a cross. In East Berlin, no matter what they've tried to do, sandblast it, they can't get rid of the cross.
They can't get it.
And on the top of that is a hotel, a restaurant, which goes around. So
Right. Yeah.
it was nice for 8 years to travel all through England and Scotland and Germany, and not too many people get that chance. So
And one of the nice things about being in Germany is that there are more Germans who speak English than there are people in, I think, any other European country who speak English. And of course, the Germans are very friendly. So I know a little bit of German, but I was really always helped by the many Germans who know English.
Right.
Any more? Rose, you wanted to say something.
I just want to ask a question.
Yes.
The currency. Who is it that was in Germany for like 8 years?
long time, Muriel.
Oh, Muriel. Hi, Muriel.
Hi.
On the economy, did you find that when you didn't have marks,
Right.
that you could spend the dollar and get a whole lot more?
No, you know where we got a lot more when we went from West Berlin to East Berlin. It was, at that point, it was a 10-to-1 trade-off. So
but if you go to
that the radio tower and the restaurant and get this gorgeous meal for like nothing because it was so good.
Right, but if you go to a vendor and you didn't have marks available,
right,
but
right.
you had U.S. currency, some of them will take U.S. currency.
Right.
When
Yeah.
they take U.S. currency, you really can get a lot because when they trade it in, they get more than
They
what.
do very well.
Yes, they do very
Yeah.
well.
I remember that when something was in marks, I would know how to do it. Because their thing is like 1 in 20 instead of 20. You have to figure this, the words
I
are
know.
backwards. So
I was doing
give them a
guilders.
5-mark bill and just get the change because,
I know. That's why I just try to
I
spend
didn't know.
whatever that is.
Until I learned to count it out. It was like, well, what is one, Spanja's just 1 in 20. And, it was very good. My German, even when I left, was a little, but my husband was very, very fluent.
Look,
So
was
when
just
it was great because you talk about Americans and English.
Done.
The places that we drove to in Germany, you had to know German, and Americans at that point had, I don't know if you remember, had green plates. The license plates are green. Then they had a lot of bombing going on. So they changed it to white plates, but they still never matched the German plates. You would still know they're American because they, but we traveled within Germany. I'll give you a tourist thing. There's an association called Gast im Schloss, which is guest of the castle. It's still there. It's people who took castles and made them into hotels.
Oh, nice.
Like we went to the Sleeping Beauty castle, which is actually the Sleeping Beauty castle, and stayed there.
Okay.
So they
I know how the license plates go. Like our license plates were very long and narrow.
Right.
They were white also with the black lettering.
Right.
I was like living in the Netherlands. So,
oh, okay.
And I didn't stay there as long as you did.
Yeah, we actually stayed
there like I went twice.
We actually stayed in a water hotel, a moat. It was a moated, and it was in the Netherlands. It was part of that group, the guests of the castle. Wasserburg Anhalt was one of these things where you drove up and it was in a lake.
Oh, well, when we lived there, the first time that we were there like in the early 70s, like 71.
Right. Oh, that was before.
And there was no military housing.
Oh, okay.
When we went there. We were on the American side of the Dutch military installation.
Right.
Where the GIs were.
Right.
But when they brought their families over, we lived on the economy.
Oh, okay. That's what we did a lot.
Because they didn't have any military housing.
No. In Berlin, there's 3 housing areas, and they're all in the economy. I mean, they're all military, but they're away from the main.
Right.
And then when we went to Schweinfurt and Fulda, we lived on the economy.
When we went back in the 80s, there was military housing. It was on the economy. It was called Schusterberg. So,
okay. All right.
Well, very good. I'm very glad what you each share. I think Alan had something he wanted to say.
I had a question. It appeared to me that each of the cities in Germany had their own carnivals, because I know that we worked with people in Cologne, and they had their carnival, and it was not at Oktoberfest time. So it seems like there's a lot of different carnivals, if you will, in Germany, and they're not all Oktoberfest.
They're all around. The carnival is around Lent, is just before the beginning of Lent. In Germany and Austria, it's called Fasching. It's not called carnival, it's called Fasching.
Fasching.
Yeah, that wasn't my question. It's that it appeared that there are different towns celebrate carnivals at a different time, and they call it carnival still.
They do. There's a lot of these festivals and carnivals or whatever they're called are very local, and they're everywhere, all over Europe, especially in Germany, as you mentioned. There are places that have them like that. Any more comments? We're starting to get toward the end of our time, and I wanted to.
Is there a relationship between the Venice Carnival and Mardi Gras?
Yes, there is. They're both celebrated just before Lent begins, so it's kind of like the last hurrah before a time of fasting. Yep.
The Fasching or carnival season starts at the Day of the Three Kings, January 6th, and that whole season goes to the Tuesday, which is Fat Tuesday before Ash Wednesday. So that whole season and there's balls, there's masquerade balls, all kinds of stuff during that season.
And they brought it to the New World. It's the same in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, New Orleans, I've been to New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival many, many times. And many Europeans come, the same groups come every year from Germany, from Paris, to come to our festivals, and that one especially, New Orleans, to go to that music festival. So they're very fond of coming over to some of ours. I know groups that rent entire hotels in New Orleans for that festival, the same groups every year. And I met a young man, it was the last day of Jazz Fest, and on the bus, and his parents had just flown in from Munich. And they were going from the airport and he was taking them right to Jazz Fest. And I thought that was just so cool that they would want to go right with their son from Munich to Jazz and Heritage Festival in New Orleans. So, you know, they like our things too, very much so, and appreciate it. So it's nice to see that back and forth.
Very good. Maybe one last comment or question from someone?
Yeah. Do you know, do they have any plans to stop the running of the bulls?
I don't know the answer to that. Does anyone else know?
'Cause it just doesn't seem, it's archaic, basically.
It doesn't seem quite humane, does it?
No, it doesn't, for anybody, for the bulls or the people. I'm just
That's
curious.
right. I'm a little surprised it goes on, but
Yeah.
many things surprise us. Well, you've been a great group. I hope you all enjoyed Rick Steves tonight on festivals. Tomorrow night, I believe, is food. So that's a big one. That's a great one to travel to Europe for, because there's so many cuisines that you could enjoy. And that's something that I really enjoy a lot. I definitely like to experience the cuisine in every single city. I mentioned the tapas in Pamplona, which is a Spanish tradition. It's not just in the Basque Country or in Pamplona. And of course, I loved the food in Munich. And there's a place called the Victual Market where you can go, which is an ancient market where you can get all sorts of food and drink. And my wife and I made sure we had a supper there one evening. There are many more classes we will be doing on travel. So keep an eye on the Get Set Up schedule. I believe that everyone knows how to find classes on the Get Set Up website. So keep an eye out. We'll be doing something with Rick Steves and Travel during much of April, leading up to and after the time he's with it. Then we have a lot of programming that we're scheduling to pick up after we're done with Rick Steves. And I hope to see a lot of you in those classes. And oh yes, Paula, did you have a question?
Did you say something that inferred that he leads travel groups? Because I'd never heard of him before.
Oh, yes, he does. That's a big part of his business. I think that last year I read in the article that he had canceled tours that for was it 20 or 30,000 people. He leads, his big thing is Europe, and he leads tours for all over Europe, and he writes guidebooks. I think he writes the best guidebooks. They're different than other guidebooks you'll find, which are often have a lot about hotels and restaurants and photographs of things. And he likes to get people out into the local community. One of his sayings is you should live like a temporary local. So that's one thing I appreciate about him, is because I also like to get out in the community and experience how the locals live and where they shop and what they cook and what their neighborhoods are like. And that's something that Rick Steves
trips
does.
for seniors?
Yes, and he does have trips for seniors. My sister has taken a Rick Steves tour to Sicily, and she loved it. So look up ricksteves.com. Perhaps he'll answer the question for us next week when we hear him, when he thinks he will start. I doubt he's going to do any this year, though there may be a few at the end of the year. Somebody mentioned the Christkindlmarkt in Germany. That's an ambition my wife and I have someday, to get to Germany in December and go to Christkindlmarkt. So.
Right. Yeah, we went luckily in December before this all hit in 2019 to Christkindlmarkt.
Oh, good for you. Well,
They're
I don't know
loads
if
of
we'll go
fun.
this year, but some year we will go there when we can really. They probably won't be full bore this year, so we'll probably wait till another year when we can really all get out and mix and mingle.
Germany's still on lockdown. I talk to my aunt every week. So
Yeah. Austria's on lockdown also.
Yep.
Well, I really enjoyed having you all this evening, and wherever you are across the country or even maybe in the world. And it's about 8:30 here in the Eastern time. So it's dark outside. So we're going to say good night to everybody. And if it's good afternoon still, maybe in California, if you're there, thanks for coming, everybody. And come and join us again tomorrow night, 7:30.
Thank you. See you tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
During the day.